does it take to develop and nurture innovative minds in the country? We focus on the legal aspects involved in safeguarding innovative minds. And in our Made in Kenya series, when nothing should come between you and your sleep, we engage one of the leading mattress manufacturers in the country. And we have a great set of guests to discuss this with me this afternoon. I'm excited for you to get to meet in just a little while our guests on the show talking about Kenyan Innovators. Our guests this afternoon are Wandiri Karimi, who's an intellectual property consultant, talking about IP protection and why legal counsel is important. Raphael Marambi, who's the co-founder and CEO of Egift Voucher, will be speaking about that. Dr. Shiko Gitau is the CEO of Kala and has worked great experience in Kenya and around the world. We'll be talking about how to start, where to start, and how to scale it. And Ken Gitonga is the co-founder and CEO of Stock App, seeking to help businesses keep digital records. Happy to be hosting all of these guests on the show this afternoon. And remember, the hashtag is Business Now at Citizen TV Kenya, at Yvonne Okwara. Any questions or comments you may have, we're definitely looking forward to that in a moment. But first, let's begin the show today with stories that are making headlines this afternoon. And let's start at the High Court, which has issued orders temporarily stopping the lifestyle audit on employees of Kenya Power, pending the hearing of a case that was filed by the Kenya Electrical Trade and Allied Workers Union. The Milimani Commercial Court Justice Maureen Onyango Friday suspended the vetting exercise by Kenya Power. Now, the power utility firm had on Thursday instructed all employees to provide personal details to a team that was formed to undertake an audit on their lifestyles and flag any curious or unexplained wealth. And Peter Mugeni Odwori has been appointed as the new Managing Director of HFC Limited. Peter, who is currently Credit Director at HFC, has 20 years' experience in leadership, credit risk management and operations. He takes over from Regina Anyika, who had held the position in an acting capacity. And finally, the Capital Markets Authority has announced the delisting of National Bank of Kenya from the Nairobi Securities Exchange with effect from the 25th of November this year. The delisting follows the bank's takeover by KCB Group in September 2019. NBK's stock was rendered dormant since its suspension from trading 2 years ago. Great. So you are now up to date in what's happening in the world of business, and now to talk about Kenyan Innovation. It's a show we have had before, but certainly, as I'm sure you would appreciate, a show we cannot have more of. There's hundreds of innovators in this country, many of them in the creative space, many of them young, many of them seeking to solve solutions for our day-to-day challenges. And these are my guests here on the show this afternoon. Ken Gitonga, who's on my right, is a co-founder and CEO of Stock App. And then on my left, which would be your right for my viewers, is Wandiri Karimi, intellectual property consultant. Next to her is Dr. Shiko Gitau. Dr. Shiko Gitau is an innovator herself, has worked with a wealth of experience, in companies such as Amazon, Google, Safaricom, and also with the government of Kenya. We'll be speaking about regulation, policy, and what that ecosystem looks like. And then last but certainly not least, we've got Raphael Marambi with the Egift Voucher, which is something interesting that we'll be taking a look at and will be very important, especially now that we're going into the festive season, no? I'm sure a lot of companies will be doing that. Great. So it's time to start our conversation. Let's do that, shall we? And I'd like to start here. Ken, Ken, you have Stock App. So tell us about how this came about.
Thank you, Yvonne, for having me here. So my name is Ken. I'm the co-founder and the CEO of Stock App. So Stock App was an app that we developed prior to a solution we had. It was called the e-bursary system. So it was a solution that was helping the needy students to access bursaries. So unfortunately, we didn't get clients, but at least we won several awards. Therefore, it gave us some cash, which we used to fund now Stock App. So Stock App was as a result of my uncle back in Gilgil. I'm from Gilgil, and then he wasn't able to know how business is every time he's away. So he wanted us to come up with a solution that will help him manage everything. Yeah? So with that, we had to look for a way to come up with a solution that will help him. So there are so many point of sales out there. So we thought, instead of coming up with a single solution and then we just sell at 30,000 and we go, we come up with something that is scalable. So that is why we introduced StockUp, that is just subscription based, and since then, yes, we've scaled to have users from over 60 countries across the world.
So what does StockUp do in terms of the records, and how does it seek to help businesses?
So StockUp, what does, you as a business owner, for example, you start by creating an account. So once you create an account, you go ahead and add all your items. So with all your items added, you see now you have your business with you in your phone. So your employees, in case you have any, they'll be doing the entries from their end, and on your end, you're able to get the reports in real time. So the samples of reports that we have is anything to do with inventory. So we have the inventory part to manage stock balances, the fast and slow moving items, and so on and so forth. We have purchase report, which is very important, and also suppliers on credit. You see, and under purchases, there are so many businesses out there whereby you take items on credit and pay at a later date. So with the app, you're able to handle that. Also, you have the point of sale part of it, or what you call sales manager. So this is where you manage how you make your sales. The customers you have, you do bulk SMS to the customers, you manage everything about customers. Then we have income statement under what you call the profit and expenses manager. So this is where you're able to manage all the expenses, you're able to get an analysis of the same, and also the graphical representation of the business. We decided to venture so much on data analysis. So the app is able to show you not only you made a profit of 10,000, but shows you that for the last 1 year, for example, so January the business is always lowest. Maybe you're dealing with goods, maybe that are exactly. Then at a particular month, the business is always highest, and so on and so forth. And also the most profitable items, because we want these business owners to know exactly what to stock in their business, and also to be exactly sure what they are doing. So you're able to get all that report, and also cash flow. It's good to mention. You're able to see how money is moving in and out of your business, because that's very important.
It is. And we have talked about you know, particularly for the SMEs, keeping records of your business. That is so important, that enables you then to take those records to a lender institution and say, this is how our business is doing, and tracking. You know, inventory is also important. So which products do you have, which ones sell the most, which ones don't, and so you can start to make some smart decisions around that. How's your uncle doing now?
Unfortunately, he closed the business. Because of so many other factors. But at least, you see, it gave us a platform that we are now able to scale, and since then we've never looked back.
And that's what you know, innovation is all about, solving solutions. I like that it started from there. Raphael, tell us about Egift voucher.
Yes, my name is Raphael Marambi. Yes, my team and I are the developers of the Egift voucher platform. We're in the gifting space. So our corporate mission actually is spreading happiness. We're here to spread happiness, and we are leveraging on the African propensity to share and to gift. So what we want is to make every day a little happier for somebody to get a surprise gift. So what we did, we looked at the voucher retail space, and we saw very many pain points. The traditional paper voucher procurement, distribution, and targeting process is very cumbersome. So we took the ordinary paper voucher that you'd get at your supermarket, and we like to say we turbocharged it. We made it digital, and we reinvented it for the 21st century. So our platform is a platform that's targeting 3 key people in the chain, in the voucher chain: the benefactor, the beneficiary, and the merchants in the middle. And we're trying to make the process, the experience, as painless as possible. So that's what we live for. That's what we think about every day. So what we do is that if you're a large corporate entity and you have a lot of staff to support with rewards and incentives, our platform enables you to get in there, and in one press of a button and a quick upload, you can distribute digital vouchers to all your staff across Kenya.
Okay, I have a question. How does this differ then from the traditional vouchers that we have? So, for instance, you have an organization like Royal Media Services that would typically, at the end of the year, give members of their staff a voucher for X amount of money, but it's always specifically tied to a retailer. So, whatever supermarket, whatever store you're thinking about, how is Egift voucher different from what we would typically see?
That's a good point. How we are different is that we've got a product called a multi-store voucher. So our voucher gives the recipient flexibility to go to several outlets with that one voucher, because of course, you see, you can get a voucher for a certain supermarket and it's at the other end of town. and then you have to go all across town to redeem it. So most of these vouchers actually expire before some recipients have even used it.
Yeah.
So we did away with, so there are several key properties we did away, for example, with the expiry. We allowed multi-usage of the voucher. You could use it at several locations, so that's a multi-store voucher. And then we also made it that you could use it in small bits. You could use it in the amounts that you need. You don't have to redeem it all at once.
Okay.
Yeah, so this was very convenient to a lot of recipients. But so we have two basic products. We have that multi-store voucher, but we also have carefully targeted locked vouchers. Now, what's unique about this is that these locked vouchers can be locked to a specific M-Pesa till for a merchant, which again avails some very careful targeting. So for example, if you're gifting a juvenile, for example, and you don't want them to misuse that voucher to buy alcoholic drinks, let's say, or misuse it you can lock it. For example, we have one of our partner retailers is Decathlon, the large athleisure wear retailer. You can actually gift a specific voucher locked to Decathlon stores. Okay. So that the teenagers now is sporty can only go and get an item from that store. Okay. So that's how we've differentiated ourselves from the traditional voucher.
I see. Dr. Shiko, there's obviously a lot that's happening, in this country in the innovation space. These are just two, and we feature quite a bit on the show. What's been your reflection and your experience of innovation in Kenya as a whole? We'll come back and talk about Kala and what you do. I think we'll need 2-3 shows to talk about what you do and the experience you had. But, let's talk about your sense of where this country is, for Raphael, Ken, and many others out there.
So, thank you so much, Yvonne, and everybody. I love what you guys are doing, by the way. And I'm so happy that this show is happening 2 weeks before the Kenyan Innovation Week, because we've just been going through a lot of stuff around innovation. So let's step back 10 years ago. The iHub was founded. A lot of stuff were happening at that point. And at that point, we were doing a lot of grant making money, a lot of funding from USAID and other grantors were coming to the country. So we're all reliant on aid and grants to do startups. I'll put startups in quote, because at that point we were just very reactive into there's this hackathon, there's this, that we were just reacting to that and we were just solving for that. And all of our problems were development problems without a commercial angle to it. So we have a huge graveyard of dead startups. I mean, it's huge. It's painfully huge, actually. But in the last 5 years, what we have seen is young people coming up with solutions. I think because you've been beaten by trying to get this grant money, people are refining their way of thinking, and we're getting really, really great solutions. Hearing from what he's saying, it's something he's thought through, yes. And what I love about his story is that he pivoted from, we're trying to connect young people to scholarships, but we've learned so much from this process. Let's try and solve this. And it's not the last one. I'm sure he's going to pivot and pivot again. That think of, if it dies, I'm dead. The mentality has moved. I can pivot and pivot and pivot. And you're no longer running towards winning a hackathon or getting into an accelerator. We are trying to solve a problem and get customers that actually pay, because revenue actually is your biggest vindicator as a startup. And I love that innovation is moving from that grant making mentality to let's make money and let's solve an actual problem. Because when you actually solve a problem, and this is something I tell many of their funders, is once an African solves a problem, they're actually solving a development problem. I mean, we're in Africa. Even if you're just creating jobs, 10 jobs is feeding 100 people directly without even, that's just simple calculations. So
there's been great evolution of it, and hopefully the graveyard is getting less and less empty, and we're having more of them that are moving into development and scaling. What do you think is the biggest challenge or challenges that face innovators? We were just saying, having this conversation before we actually came on there, that innovators are creatives. And so in many ways, you want to be sure that you launch this product into the market when it's at its best, when it is perfect. When you've worked out all the kinks and you've done 70,000 iterations and you're good and you're sure. But that's a real challenge, though, that creators and innovators face, right?
If your baby is not ugly when it's going to the market, you're too late to the market.
Okay, say that again.
If your baby is not ugly when you're going to the market, you're too late to the market.
Raphael is wondering, What does that mean?
This means that you've identified a problem. You've identified a great solution. Don't wait until all the icons and the pixels are in place. Take the very first version of it. It will be ugly. People will call it ugly, but in them calling it ugly, they're giving you great feedback about it. And you don't have to have like launch it with pomp and color. You can launch it to your first, or let's say get your first 100 customers or first 100 users. They will give you excellent feedback. That feedback will help you grow your product. Don't wait until you have enough money to put all the pixels in place and then have a nice launch event at some fancy address in Nairobi, call Yvonne to come and moderate. Don't wait for that. Get it out. And this applies both to startups and to corporates. And let me tell you, we're talking about startups having a problem taking something ugly to the market. Corporates use millions of Kenyan shillings building something. They are very afraid of failure, because innovation is about failure.
It is a very personal thing, because it's something that you have built and you're putting out into the world.
And you have to allow yourself to be told it's ugly. And it's decoupling yourself from innovation. It's a lesson I have had to learn myself, because it's saying, this is Shiko and this is something I have built. And people, not everybody will like it as much as it is, but I want them to like it more than me so that they can use it. Even the people who don't like me, I want them to like it so they can use it and solve their problem. Just decoupling yourself from the solution is important, but also allowing yourself to saying, I'll put it out there, 99% of the time it will actually fail, but there's just that 1% chance it will succeed, and I'm going to go with the 1%.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Actually, maybe Yvonne, so if I add to whatever Victoria said, it's true. I remember when we were launching StockUp, it was, I think it had only 4 features. So it was about inventory, sales, and how you restock, and that's it. So see, at that time, when you take it to the customers, we call it the minimum viable product.
Yes.
And then now the feedback, through the feedback, that is what we use now to develop the app. And I think I mentioned to you before we came online that we decided to use what we call reverse development. So we have this small thing here, we take it to customers, then from their feedback, then we refine that particular product. And like most startups, the way she's mentioned, you see they spend a lot of time staying together in a boardroom somewhere, maybe with mentors and investors and everything, only for you to produce a product that actually nobody wants it, nobody uses it. So
or maybe there's something similar already that's working in the market.
Exactly. No, so it's very important.
It's usually perfect, but doesn't meet a real need.
That's it.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah, it might be perfect, but you know, who is it?
Who's the user?
Who's the user?
I had that problem actually. I was a perfectionist, but luckily I've got a great team. That's why you need a team also.
Okay.
I've got a CTO who's just like the quintessential hacker. Okay. So they're the guys who just shove you off and to tell you entrepreneurship is jumping off a cliff without a parachute. And you'll build the parachute on the way down.
As you go.
I think for me, listening to everybody, because I'm a creative, you know, that's what my other world is. But talking about the graveyard of startups and what happens in that process, because you're talking about your team and you're talking about this whole process where you went through, you know, fixing something that you wanted to make. But then the legal side of it is you have, I would say, like three issues that cause the graveyard situation. Okay. So you start up and you have this group of people who you're working with, and well, when we started off in the startup accelerator space, you're friends and you're all agreeing and you're doing this wonderful thing, but you've not written anything down. So you don't have contracts between each other. You've talked about stock options. You've talked about how when we make it big, this is what your share is going to be, but it's not in writing. And then one clever guy just, you know, is the charismatic person who goes ahead and gets the funding, and then everybody else is left outside. And that story ends like that. But not only that, that's just one end of it. When you're talking about registration of IP, intellectual property, which is trademarks, which is utility models, patents, copyright, all those spaces require registration. So one of the challenges I find for innovators is which version are we going to register? And what part are we going to what registration is applicable? Because software in this country is under copyright. But in the West, it's under patent, because and that's a whole other argument. It's an entire show. And where you register is where you're protected. So it's also, for example, like patent is territorial. So you're registered in 60 countries. So I mean, you're working in 60 countries. So all these apps apps that all these app users, some guy can come and register your particular app in another country. And you know, stop you from being in that space. So there's a lot of, I guess, fear as a creative about, oh, somebody's going to steal my idea, somebody's going to implement my idea.
So how do you steal-proof your idea? What are some of, I don't know if there's like 3 or 5 you want to talk about?
I'm burning because I always say an idea is as good as a brain cell it sits on until it comes out. It's execution that makes a difference.
Yes.
So I've had ideas stolen. It's fine, and maybe it's just my way of thinking. I always say if you go and implement it and it's serving the need it was supposed to be, that's fine. But you need to get it out there. And like I always say, risk and legal people are the people that we fight most with, because you're like running, and they're like, oh, stop,
they're like, no, stop. Okay. So let's hang on. Let's let Wandiri stop you for a moment. And tell us about some of the things that you need to do. Okay, so and think about and put down before you launch a product, when you launch it, and through the life of the product.
Completely. So, like I was saying before, you know, when you're developing it, have your paperwork between yourselves and between your investors, between, you know, you need to have your paperwork from the beginning. Because what happens is, Kesi Badai is wonderful when you're talking about the tech part.
But when the money comes in.
But when the money comes in, everybody is friends. Everybody is friends when they're broke. Everyone. But when the money comes in, that is where, when the zeros pass 4 of them, then that story, 10,000 shillings, $100 and above, there is war. And immediately that happens, that's when people have fights. After that, while you're launching, I think, and especially in the place of marketing, because of course that runs hand in hand with what it is you're putting out. You know, when the big multinational changed their name last month, I think, that was important because they were changing how they are seen outside. We still will call them by their previous name, but
you're talking about Facebook.
Yes.
We can say it.
No, our Jalipa.
We can't talk about Facebook and Meta. It's okay, I see where you're going.
No, our Jalipa for space. You know, because that's also the other thing that your trademark and what it is you're putting out there is also part of the IP that is going to make you money. It's not just about the solution, but what that solution makes people feel. So like social media in the way that it has grown because it makes us feel a certain way. So you're either a Twitter person, a Facebook person, whatever it is, but that's a brand that they have created and it's just a trademark. So there is that. And then after, through the life of, because of course you'll go through Series A, Series B, Series C, whatever line of funding that you are at, you need to also, as you started, continue on to the place where you finally sell your startup or your company, because that's the other thing. Sometimes you create to sell, or sometimes you get to the place where you know, buy an island and just chill and have more ideas.
Which is probably what it's all about. Don't we all want to own that island somewhere? And even though selling might not be your initial idea, I mean, something could happen along the way. It gets super successful, and you have to do that. Listen, it's a great conversation we're having, but we need to take a break. When we come back, we'll talk a lot more. We'll want to hear about the innovations, how far they are, how many downloads, how many customers. We'll also get to hear from you, Dr. Shiko, on you know, your innovation journey and some of the things that you have done. So keep your comments coming in. I'm seeing some great ones. Old schoolmates, old classmates, and everybody who's you know, happy to see you all on the air. Wanatuma salams. This is Business Now at Citizen TV Kenya. At Yvonne Okora. We'll be back in a moment.